Well, this is a game. Welcome to Yoshi Safari. And let's see if I can remember the code. Let's see. XYLR start. There we go. Pink means hard mode. And I'll get more into the differences between those in a moment. You don't really need to see this. This is just basic plots. We're in Jewelry Land, helping Prince Pine and King Fret, I think they're called. Because Bowser took their jewels or something. Okay, this is not going so well. There we go. Now we're ready to run. Now, the thing about this is there's a two-player mode. And this is technically a one-player, one-controller, one-super scope run. So, let's go. Now, the reason I'm using two controllers is because if you're just playing one player, you only have the super scope and Yoshi just kind of automatically paths around these stages. But after the fourth time that I had him walk off a platform to his death, I just decided, you know what? I think I want to be in control. Okay, not to his death, but he did try to drown himself. So, you saw me shoot a gate there. There are gates in several stages throughout this run. Some of them do nothing, some of them actually make the path you take longer. But the ones I'm trying to hit help me do things like get that Fire Flower power-up, because that extends the power bar, which drops as you hold down fire, and when it gets really low, your shots start to slow down. So I'm doing the levels a little out of order, in order to get those Fire Flowers as soon as I possibly can. Now, one of the big differences on hard mode is the bosses move twice as fast and shoot twice as much. Also, I have to actually care about Yoshi's well-being because he will take more damage from every individual hit. This is a handy thing for bosses, though, is most of them are just designed with one player in mind, where Yoshi will just hang out in the middle of the screen. So you can kind of move him off to the side, and he will avoid taking damage from several attacks. Almost every boss in this game is going to have some kind of second phase, and their patterns are random, and it's random between two different things they can do. The attack you want them to do, and the attack you don't want them to do. In this case, it's Marge Koopa doing the jump. By the way, I don't know any of these Koopas' names. I'm just going by what I see. So Marge Koopa, I want him to open up his turret, which he will do more often in hard mode, but it balances out because they take more damage in hard mode. You can, in fact, just say screw it and shoot Yoshi in the back of the head. Which, given the smarmy look that he gives you after every single stage, I have done several times. So I went to stage 2 because I could get the first Fire Flower early there, but I'm going here because this is my least favorite boss in the game. Okay, we're not going to take the gate here, because that actually makes the level longer. And there are jump pads here, which, if you just had the Super Scope, you would press the trigger on the handle to jump over those. But with two-player mode on, you gotta press A on the controller. And I'm gonna try and just avoid as many enemies as I can. That's another reason that I'm on two-player mode, is that I can just maneuver Yoshi around some enemies instead of taking the time to shoot them, because pretty much everything causes this game to lag. you shoot it lags, too many enemies spawn it lags. Now if I didn't have the Fire Flower from the previous stage, I would have had to wait to get him on the second phase. Second cycle, I should say. So here's why this boss is terrible. She appears out of random pipes, and you just gotta hope that the anvil happens to hover over her. Mary Sue Koopa, whoever this is. Okay, that's pretty lucky so far. Also, ordinarily I'd get rid of my items because it adds a little time to the final score tally. But in this case, the clock would cause the time bonus to take much longer, so I'm just gonna let that be. Come on, you're almost there. This is the level that pretty much decides how your run is going to go. Like, this and the final boss are the biggest time sinks. A Wendy Koopa. Thanks, chat. I'll learn these names someday, but that day is not today. So now we're going to do the levels more or less in order. And by the time we hit World 5, we should have a completely full power meter, which we're going to need because doing some of these bosses without a full power meter is just a massive headache, and it makes it take way longer. So another slight difference on hard mode is more enemies will spawn, and they'll frequently spawn in very annoying places. Such as, like, when you're about to take off or land from a jump pad. By the way, if you miss jump pads like the one I just went over, Yoshi will apparently land on an electrified floor and just take damage for the entire time he's on it. Also, several enemies in this, like the bullet things, will take more damage before they go away. Like, they'll take 2 shots instead of 1. Okay, he gave me a good pattern for the start. Let's see if he keeps doing it. I actually kind of hope that he jumps now and then, so that I can get my power bar to refresh. Now there's a very tiny hitbox we can go for, which is his hands on the controls. So you can cause, what's the name? Skate or Die Koopa to pop out a little bit early. There are a couple Koopas like this, where there's like a very tiny place you can get some extra damage on them. By the way, that psychedelic fruit lowers the amount of damage Yoshi takes. If you're playing on normal mode, though, he usually just won't take damage at all. Okay, so level 4 is annoying. If you were on normal mode, there's a part when you're above ground that you would get a star, and you could just give your arms a rest for a moment. But in hard mode, no such luck. So I'm going to stay very close to the right wall because I don't want Yoshi to get knocked into the Pepto-Bismol. Because every time you do that, you end up losing almost 10 seconds. Because he has a very slow animation where he gets carried out of the water. Actually, you know what? I mentioned it before. But, let's see. Right before we go into the water, I'll show it off. So, this is what happens if Yoshi gets out of line. That does damage you though, so I'm not going to do it much. These guys aren't so bad here because we're underwater, but when you get above ground and have to deal with them, the Billy Bass can be pretty annoying. Okay, these guys I know what they're called. These are bloopers, right? Bloopers? Did I get one? Well, we maxed out the power gauge. That's the important thing. Also, in this section, they will kind of spawn really close to you, so it's easy to get pinballed around by them. So, by taking this next gate, we're going to skip several enemies, and the path is much shorter. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't have to shoot at all until the final boss. So I'm gonna give my arm a rest. So, the second phase of this guy is going to be stressful, because he moves really fast, and if you don't shoot him fast enough, he'll, like, launch bombs at Yoshi. In fact, when I get to the second phase, I'm just gonna drop the controller. Alright, that was pretty good. So, he can appear at various heights, and you have to hit the window, otherwise the shot won't count. So what I do is I just do like 4 or 5 shots vertically on one side of the screen to ensure that I hit the first shot. Otherwise, he'll stop for a moment, release a projectile, stop for a moment, release a projectile, and then you can end up spending way too much time trying to defend Yoshi instead of landing hits on the boss. There's not a whole lot to say about this stage yet, other than I'm glad to have borders back on the levels. Although there is one point later on, which could... I mean, it's a very low likelihood of happening, but if it does happen, the run is just dead. So let's not think about that, and let's just focus on not landing in the sand. Sometimes if the enemies appear in just the right place, Yoshi kind of steers slowly, so sometimes I'll intentionally take a hit from an enemy if it'll help me like rebound around a corner faster. It's a very minor time save, and the setup for it is mostly just random. But if it's there, I'll go for it. Good pattern. So he can throw hammers, or he can jump up into the air where you can't hit him, and then cause the ground to shake, and then you can't shoot for a little bit. So, this guy... okay, he's not cooperating early on. I want him to do the shooting attack, but the problem is that the firing animation is so much faster on hard mode that he ends up jumping way more. Okay. And now we have Facial Cream Koopa, who his animation is he'll open the hat, hoist himself up with his hand, and then try to throw bombs at you. But you can shoot the hand to cause him to pop up early and land some extra shots. That is, if he feels like doing it. Because this guy has 3 different things he can do. Hop around, fire things out of his eyes, or lift up the hat. Okay, he cooperated toward the end. Ideally, he would just lift the hat the entire fight. Fingers crossed that I'm going to get some better boss RNG later, because this is kind of so far. Okay, this is a level that kind of acts as like a training stage for the worst stage in the game. Because that is not the last time you're going to see whatever these are. And you won't have the benefit of borders later. Minor spoiler. Also, these shells, the direction that they move is random. So, there are times where you'll go into the stage and there will be a shell moving the opposite direction. Like, it'll just go further down the stage without you. It's like when someone just fires off a shell in Mario Kart and it just hangs around. And it just ate my input. That's okay. Fortunately, there's not a huge health loss on that. It's mostly just a time loss. Although that is a bit of a problem on hard mode, because with bosses taking more damage and tending to move around a lot more, instead of, like, show their weak points, you can actually run out of time pretty easily on some of these bosses. This guy in particular. I'm gonna try and shoot the arm that is firing at Yoshi, because by going after the weak points, I'll end up blocking most of the shots and keeping Yoshi alive. Okay, we got one down. It's not over yet, though. Okay, that sound you heard was the 1-minute warning. Got him. Yoshi's health can get pretty low on some of these fights. Oh, it's Skater Die Koopa. I forgot that he was inside that thing. Wish they had a health bar for the enemy. Yeah, that would help. Because this isn't like a conventional Mario game where it's like, jump on its head 3 times. So right here, I'm just trying to jump over these things in a vain attempt to mitigate a bit of lag. So this is the last level on the map, but you might have noticed that we're still way under the estimate. So yeah, there are going to be some extra things to do after this. Okay, another reason I do the two controller setup, when I leave Yoshi just to do whatever, he will frequently miss that jump pad. Or speed pad, excuse me. Okay, this guy has a good pattern and a bad pattern. If he's off screen, it's the bad pattern. Alright, that wasn't so bad. He only went off screen a couple of times. It's when he doesn't throw any bombs and just does that over and over that things are really going poorly. Okay, I don't know this guy's name either. Oakley Von Koopa? Ray-Ban Von Koopa? Am I close? Probably not. Ideally, he would do the pattern where he just stops and fires out of the different cannons on the... There you go! Are my batteries almost dead yet? No. The batteries actually don't die that fast, as long as you remember to, like, shut it off in between runs. Because it's when you just, like, forget that you left it on turbo, and then fall asleep. That's how you kill the batteries. Okay, we're not going to take that gate, because it actually makes us take a much longer path. This will get us straight to the mini-boss of the stage. I kind of move from side to side as I do this, because it helps with my aim. Also, it helps keep the fire on screen a bit longer. Oh, it's okay, game. You'll get through this. Just deal with the lag for now. So I said that the one boss was pretty bad. Mary Sue Koopa, with the randomly popping out of the pipes and having to drop the anvil. This is the most stressful one, because first phase, it teleports once or twice. We're fighting Fantasia Koopa. It can appear in 4 different locations, and it'll teleport once or twice. You have to hit it in the face, otherwise the shot doesn't count. And it's a pretty tight amount of time that you have to actually get the shot off. And not to spoil anything, but once this is over, like every other boss in this game, there's going to be a second phase, in which he teleports faster, can teleport up to 4 times, and even though he's a bigger target, he doesn't spend nearly as much time in corporeal form. So you have way less time to actually land the hit. When that happens, I'm just going to drop the controller and go just hardcore focus on this. Alright, here we go. Alright. You want him to just teleport once every time, but at the same time, on hard mode, he moves so fast that sometimes you want him to do it twice. Because he won't, like, disappear and reappear in the same spot. So I know Halloween already happened. But we're going to the haunted house. And boos do not work at all here like they do in the games. I'm clearly looking right at them. So the deal is you just shoot them to get them to hide their faces, and then like after a set amount of time they'll start coming after you again. So you kind of wait for them to get about halfway toward you, then shoot them, and then just run past them. You can technically collect them for coins if you like so desire, but we're pretty good on lives. And this gate helps you skip a pretty sizable portion of the house. In particular, there's no more boos for this section if you do that. Now, it looks like we're going to the boss. We're not. So before we actually get to the final boss, there's going to be... shocker, there's going to be a mini-boss. And it is Lakitu. Are you going to give me a good pattern? No, you're not. It can throw 1, 2, or 3 landmine turtle things. I guess landmine isn't the best way to put it. Minesweeper turtles, let's go with that. So, 3 guesses who the boss of this stage is. There may or may not be a hint on screen. Yeah, it's a boo. Now you can only actually hit it like while it's in the unstunned animation. So you can get it like 3 times for each movement cycle. And that falling debris can actually do a decent amount of damage. So I just kind of keep Yoshi off to one side of the screen. He doesn't get hit by like half of it, but fortunately I have a mushroom to help keep him going. Alright, now for this one, we have to hit the boo with the tongue sticking out. And we have to hit that boo in the face specifically. If you just hit like the arm or the tail end of it, it doesn't count. But it's a much shorter phase. You know what? I would have loved if the boss here was somehow Dr. Robotnik, but no. Because then you could just hit it 8 times and be done. Well, hard mode 16 times. So, I didn't mention it before, but the Boo House is actually kind of scary, and I intentionally ground Yoshi against the wall to get him to slow down, because he does not turn very well at all. So what's scary about the Boo House is, right after the Lakitu fight, if you take the turn too sharply, Yoshi will get stuck in the wall. It's happened to me a couple of times, but fortunately it did not happen there. Another good attack pattern, thank you. So we finally got a star, and there are 2 kinds of stars in this game. One is a usable item, and the other is just one that you pick up and automatically use. The star is actually very helpful for the boss of this stage, which... Charging Chuck, I think it's called, the football guy. Please tell me I got that one. So this guy, he can ground pound and stun, well, quote-unquote stun you. Basically just prevent you from shooting. I'm just using the star as insurance and to prevent the extra score tally. If you keep Yoshi off-center, most of these bombs will not hit him. And you can shoot Charging Chuck out of the air to prevent him from doing the stomp that prevents you from firing. Okay. That's much harder if you're doing just one player because, well, you can't have Yoshi dodge everything. How is this a safari? Yes. That's all I got. And welcome to my least favorite stage in the game. There are no borders here and tons of things that can knock you off. I'll be happy if I only fall 3 times. That's 1. Jeez, that's 2. The very first section is really the worst part of the stage. Particularly when it just has you give the speed boost directly into 3 of them. This isn't nearly as bad on normal mode because the fish don't take as much damage to get rid of. Okay, the worst of this stage is over. Which means now we can just focus on the time-consuming boss. Time-consuming because for the first phase you can only hit like one hit every second or so. Ideally, you'll be able to hit it twice, at least, for every cycle. But sometimes it's just moving way too fast. Because you have to wait until the Koopa gets out of its hit animation before you can shoot it again. And the place where it pops up out of the water is also random. Don't worry, Yoshi, you'll be fine. That'll happen too. If you land the last shot as it's submerging, it'll rise up and then do the animation where it cycles to the next Koopa. And now the second phase. And this is a prime example of RNG just not being with me, because he did not open his weak point for a really long time. Alright, worst is behind us. And that is going to lead into the final stage of the game. I wonder who the last boss will be. So the stage itself isn't really much to talk about, but you do end up doing something else before fighting the final boss. Which, you know, we'll discuss that when we get there. It seems really upbeat for, like, what it's supposed to be portraying. I mean, the music in general for this is, like, satisfactory, I'll say. It does its job, but I don't really remember most of these songs. So these guys function a lot like the boos. You can shoot them and then wait, or just jump over them. Okay, the lag almost caused me to miss that question mark block. I mean, it's not a huge deal because I hadn't really taken much damage. But still, it's nice to have just in case. So, before we actually fight the final boss, we get a mini-boss rush. Which means that some of these mini-bosses have been reused 3 or 4 times. It's also important to note that the question mark block always appears in the same place. So you can just start shooting there and get moving again as fast as possible. Man, he always gives me the bad pattern. Very rarely does he stick around to throw 2 or even 3 of those things. Okay, for the fire chain, it's actually a little easier, I think, to fight it in the stage than it is to fight it here. You wouldn't think so, because you actually have a little more room to operate here. But it seems to move a little more erratically. Alright, final boss time. And Bowser's ready for us. Now, he has the armor stage, and then he has an unarmored stage. And when we knock off the armor, I'm really, really hoping he does not move to the left side of the screen. Because for whatever reason, and I've had this problem with this game on multiple TVs, shots will just not register if he's all the way to the left. And you have to hit both of his hands. Okay, he cooperated. Alright, so we got the hands, now we just gotta shoot down his throat. And that is time. So even though, like, a bunch of the bosses move faster on hard mode, the damage that they take ends up making this a little longer than a normal run. And under 43 minutes, I will take. My personal best in this is 42:05. And that's even with, like, some weird boss RNG going on. And here's the incredibly memorable Prince Pine getting all the jewels back from Mario that Bowser stole. And when's this guy getting into Smash? So that was the Super Scope block, everybody. Thanks, Feasel, for all the work you're doing, keeping this event going. Wait a minute. Oh. In the time that it took for the Super Scope games to happen, the day changed, and now it's my birthday. So, thanks for having me. I'm gonna go to sleep. It has been a very long day, and this was a great way to cap it off, so thanks everybody.